Welcome to the virtual training video for the Survey of Well-Being of Young Children. If you're receiving this training, you play an important role in the coordination and delivery of essential early intervention and behavioral health services for children and their families. Be sure to complete the feedback module included in this presentation so that you can receive credit for this training. Your feedback will help us improve our future training content and process. This training aims to provide you with a well-rounded understanding of the SWYC and how it applies to pediatric behavioral health care. You will learn how to implement, administer, interpret, and score the SWYC, how to deliver results, and facilitate referrals. The SWYC is a comprehensive developmental behavioral screening tool designed to assess children under the age of 5.5. It is evidence-based and endorsed by the American Academy of Pediatrics and Bright Futures. The SWYC, or the Survey of Well-Being of Young Children, is a key component of BEC's Coordinated Screening and Referral Initiative that will be used by Rush pediatric primary care providers to screen for behavioral health concerns. SWYC modules only take most caregivers 10 minutes to complete and include questions that are easy to recall from memory. Module content is easy to score, sensitive to diverse cultural backgrounds, and can be administered in multiple formats and languages. The SWYC assesses multiple domains of a child's well-being, including cognitive, motor, and language development, behavioral and emotional adjustment, risk for autism, and family context. Each domain includes 1 to 2 screeners. While family context is an essential determinant of a child's well-being, the domain will not be used in Rush pediatric primary care as it overlaps with the pre-existing SDOH measure. The SDOH will be used in conjunction with the other 3 domains for behavioral health screenings. Screeners, or modules, are the assessments that are administered to caregivers. Each screener has age-specific forms that are designed to assess a child's functioning and behaviors based on what is expected for their age. Screeners are meant to detect behavioral or developmental risk factors. Screeners are administered to caregivers 2 weeks before a child's routine health visit. Based on the child's age, the caregiver might be asked to fill out a screener in any of the 3 domains. Most parents will be prompted to complete the screener through MyChart. Once a caregiver receives a MyChart alert to complete the screener, they can complete it electronically using any mobile device that supports the MyChart application features. Screeners can also be administered in the clinic via paper format or electronically via the Epic tablet for families with varying language preferences or for those that do not have access to MyChart. Screeners that are completed electronically will automatically be scored and populated into Epic. If a screener is completed in paper format, the provider will score the results and then scan the screener into Epic. The provider will compare the child's score to a positive screen indicator or PSI to determine a positive or negative screen. A PSI is the cutoff score used to determine a child's risk level. The indicator is based on the child's age and screener criteria and can be found in the SWYC manual. The Developmental Milestones module includes 10 questions that assess cognitive, language, and motor functioning within the context of the child's age and developmental expectations. The questions are designed to evaluate each domain from the caregiver's perspective. The module is scored based on a subjective rating scale, with assigned point values ranging from 0 to 2. The total score is calculated based on the cumulative sum of each response value. The completed module in this example contains the question set that would be administered for a child that is 18 months old. If we were to score the example, the child would receive a score of 7 based on the domain point value criteria. Now that we've calculated the module score, we can use the SWYC scoring cheat sheet to determine whether or not the value indicates a positive screen. Since the child's score of 7 falls below the cutoff score listed for the child's age, this would indicate a positive screen. The Baby Pediatric Symptom Checklist is a 12-question module that assesses a child's social-emotional functioning using 3 subscales: social anxiety, irritability, and sleep. If we were to score this example, the child would receive a score of 2 for the first subscale, 6 for the second subscale, and 4 for the final subscale. Since the child received a score of 3 or more in the second and third subscales, this would indicate a positive screen. The Preschool Pediatric Symptom Checklist is the second module of the Behavior Emotion domain, following the BPSC. It is scored based on 18 items. Like the previous modules, the point values for each response remain the same. If we were to score the PPSC example in this slide, the child would receive a sum score of 11, indicating a positive screen. The parent's observations of social interactions, or POSI, falls into the third SWYC domain, risk for autism. Each question is assigned either a 1 or a 0 based on their column positioning. Items in the first column are scored as 0s, whereas items scored in the last 3 columns are scored as 1. A result of 3 or more points in the last 3 columns indicates a positive score. When scoring the POSI, remember to note this important rule. Each question can only have a maximum score of 1. If you are scoring a question that has a check all but apply prompt, only one of the checked responses for that question would count towards the total score. If we apply the POSI rule to this example, the child would receive a total score of 5 instead of 6, since one of the multiple item responses was not accounted for in the final sum. If we look at the final 3 columns, we can also see that the child's final score indicates a positive screen. This is suggested because the last 3 columns include a result of 5 points. Since the positive indicator for this module is 3 or more points in the last 3 columns, this means that the child's score is above the criteria and indicates a positive screen. Now that you know how to score the SWYC modules, let's take a moment to review the positive indicators, or PSIs. The PSI for developmental milestones varies by age, as we have different developmental expectations based on the child's age. You can use resources like the SWYC cheat sheet or manual for support with scoring developmental milestones. The other 3 modules have specific criteria for PSIs. For the POSI, this is a score of 3 or more in the last 3 columns. For the BPSC, this is any subscale score of 3 or more. PSIs can indicate risk for any number of disorders, but should not be used to diagnose, as it is not a formal diagnostic tool. A PSI is only a portion of the SWYC that should be considered in conjunction with other factors to guide treatment decisions. To properly interpret results, providers should examine the caregiver's response to each question to determine how a positive screen was achieved. Factors such as their comprehension of the questions, language, cultural barriers, or level of engagement in the screener can significantly influence responses. Be sure to note response patterns, such as items left blank or clusters of items that are scored in the same way. Next, prepare for your conversation with the caregiver. You will want to know what questions were asked in the screener, what items were rated highly, and have follow-up questions prepared so that you can determine if the caregiver's interpretation matches the intent of the screener. First, explain what findings mean, including the potential for uncertainty in screenings. Reiterate that the purpose of screening is not to diagnose but to identify concerns. Next, ask about the child's strengths in comparison to their potential for growth. Don't forget to congratulate caregivers for being good observers of their child. This can reinforce their sense of competency and influence their level of engagement in the treatment planning process. Finally, begin the follow-up process. Assist the caregiver in prioritizing presenting concerns and setting goals. Provide psychoeducation and suggestions on how to stimulate healthy social, emotional, and behavioral development. If indicated, place a referral in the EPIC work queue. You can use these referral pathway flowcharts to determine what providers and services are best suited to the needs of the child and family. Families can be referred to BEC in 3 ways: via positive SWYC screen, through provider referral, or parent request for behavioral health services. Each referral will undergo the same intake process, beginning with an assessment conducted by a BEC clinician. When a referral to BEC is generated into EPIC, a BEC clinician will coordinate with the family to schedule an intake appointment. The caregiver may engage in 1 to 6 brief intervention sessions to address presenting concerns and receive psychoeducation. A BEC clinician may also facilitate other referrals for additional services, such as parent management training groups, diagnostic evaluations, or school-based special education services. You have now reached the feedback module of this training. To complete this portion, you will need to pause the video and scan the QR code with your phone using the rear-facing camera function, answer all questions, and return to the video to resume the remainder of the training. Congratulations on completing the SWYC virtual training modules. If you have additional questions related to the training content or about building early connections, please reach out to us via the contact information provided in the next slide.